back, everybody. We are back at it with another week, another podcast, and another episode.
Yeah, this one's going to be a good one, I think. Let me turn up my gain a little bit. I think I'm a little quiet.
Yep.
We got a good session today. So I think we can kind of like shoot the shit a little bit in the beginning, kind of see where everybody's at, or where both of us are at, and then we'll kind of talk about the Arnold Classic. So two big shows each year that we get to really enjoy. As far as like the biggest shows, which is going to be the Olympia and the Arnold. The Olympia takes place different days each year, but the Arnold Classic usually takes place right around now, end of February, beginning of March. The Olympia 2022 was December 15th through the 18th. So it usually does take place in the middle of December, but it used to take place in October. But yeah, so we got the Arnold Classic to talk about, which is exciting.
Yeah, and then also a little bit of personal updates too, since that affects my training and what's going on.
But something big happened this week, huh?
Yeah. And if anybody watching the camera just saw it, I'm doing this weird crossover to drink my coffee because of that.
Yep. It's a good old incident.
Yep. So basically what happened, one sec. So basically what happened is that I was playing in a student staff basketball game, and when I was playing in that game, I tend to go pretty intense, and there was a loose ball, and I dove for the loose ball. Someone else went for the loose ball, and I caught a knee to the head, and it knocked me clean out, like completely out. I had no idea where I was when I woke up, probably mildly concussed too, so that's a ton of fun. And I'm told that when I hit the ground, I landed on my hand very poorly. And at the time, I didn't even notice it. So someone helped me up. I got over to the bench. Then I went to another room. I laid down for a bit. And then like 5 minutes went by. And then I checked back into the game. And when I got back out there, I found one of my buddies who was on the court. And I could feel that my pinky was messed up. And I thought it was just a dislocated finger because I was looking at the knuckle, and the pinky knuckle was where the ring knuckle was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I had my buddy just, I bent over a little bit to suck in the upcoming pain, and he popped it back into place for me. And we both heard and felt the pop, so that we knew it was back into place.
So you knew for sure it was dislocated before?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, just from the placement, it had to be.
Yeah.
And it also popped when we moved it, so that is kind of a giveaway. Mm-hmm. And then I went to urgent care afterwards to just make sure that we had realigned it properly and everything. And when I got there, they had me go into the x-ray. And also, I went urgent care, not primary care, because it was like 8 at night. And so I went into the x-ray. They took a couple shots, and I went back to the into the little room they have you wait in. And when they came in, I was like, "So did we realign the finger properly?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, you realigned. Like it's not dislocated anymore. You just broke your hand." So nice. It's on the 5th metacarpal on my left hand. It's what connects my pinky to my hand, and it is just the break is just. I have to check the picture again. It's either just above or just below the knuckle. I'm gonna look at it.
So it's
just
the big part of the pinky, right?
It is.
Big bone.
Well, it's in my hand. It's in my hand, so you can see where the knuckles are, and because that's that ball right there. And that
here, shoot me the photo real quick. Just text me the photo real quick.
I can do that.
Pull it up. Yeah, because I was looking at it wrong. I thought I was looking at the big bone in your pinky. So I was like, oh, that'd be fine for training. That's not. No, you just get a splint.
Yeah, no. This
okay.
is
okay. I see now. Damn. Yeah, you did break your hand. Okay.
And if you zoom in, you can see where the clear cut line is. But then, do you see that dark sliver that's riding just beneath the clear cut line?
Yes.
That is a second break.
Yeah, so it's like one break on the left side, 2 breaks on the right almost.
It is not a clean break at all. And so what I now have to deal with is this.
Yeah.
Um, for those who are watching, I just lifted, and for those not watching, I have essentially a full forearm to finger cast. Well, this is a
Hmm.
temporary one because I was at urgent care, and I have an ortho appointment on Wednesday to decide if I need surgery and whatnot. Because, like I said, it's not a clean break, and I need to. Uh, yeah, so if it doesn't require surgery, I'm probably looking at 4 to 6 weeks. And if I do need
Hopefully.
surgery, we're probably closer to the 6 to 8, potentially even 10 week range. Um,
Hmm.
so that is a huge setback on my end. But I called my coach the very next day and I was like, hey, man, this is what happened. I obviously want to keep training. And I know I can, I think you and I talked about it, like I can crush abs and legs for sure.
Yeah.
Um, what can I do for the rest of it? And that's what got me to a really interesting conversation point. And I did a decent amount of research myself. Um, but unilateral work. So, or if you'll hear bilateral work a lot, but unilateral work is just training one side of your body, or like one muscle group. And for example, my next day, according to the plan, would be my shoulder day. And obviously, if you look at my hands, I can I can only grip one dumbbell in right now in my right hand. I cannot grip anything in my left hand, nor am I able to angle anything. And probably if I go to the top of the range, my finger is going to get triggered a little bit just because of how the cast is. So I asked him about this, and essentially, there are neuro pathways within our muscles and with our nerves, our fiber, literally everything. It's what connects everything in our body to our brain. That's within every little part of our body. And there are studies that have been done. So, for example, if anyone wants to take a look, Ace Fitness is not a research article, but it is a reliable fitness website with a lot of research based material. So, this particular article is stating that unilateral work is shown to keep the neural pathways open and active. So I'm not going to be gaining any muscle on my left side. So for example, if I'm shoulder pressing, my right delt is going to be worked, obviously, because it's under strenuous pressure because I'm actually performing the dumbbell shoulder press.
Hmm.
Whereas my left delt is not going to be under any kind of intense stimuli. It's not actually being worked in a muscle gaining hypertrophy way. But what is happening is that just the activation of the muscle on the other side is going to trigger my brain to think about the other side. And that in itself keeps the muscles active on my left side, which again will not gain muscle, but everyone who is in the gym knows that if you take 3 weeks off of the gym, that's when you start to see muscle deterioration. Because your body decides it doesn't need it anymore if you don't touch it for 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's 4 weeks, but 3 weeks is generally your golden number. And so, what this particular area of fitness is going to do is that it's going to delay that process for me. So, obviously, this is not a long term thing. I can't do this for a year and be fine. But
Yeah.
if I have a 4 to 6 week recovery time, I should be good. 8 to 10 is when it gets a little bit gray, like in the gray area. But
Hmm.
right now, if I can keep it to 6, maybe 7 weeks, I should be able to keep my tone and muscle definition and size on my left side. Um,
Yeah. At least maintain it.
and yeah, and of course that's all upper body, and there are some upper body things I'm still going to be able to hit. Like my gym has a seated machine lateral raise that the pads are pressed against your biceps, like the
Yeah.
outside or kind of your triceps even. And
Yeah.
so
I know
for
what you're
that,
talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
I could still do that. And so
Yeah.
there's going to be some like shoulder variants that I'm going to be able to do. Um, and honestly, I might try squatting still.
You got to
I
be
just
careful
have
with
to.
that.
Yeah, I think I might Smith machine it because with the Smith machines, I mean, I know Smith machine squats are the joke of the gym world, but
No, not at
if
all.
I disagree.
I,
But
I mean, if you take them serious, like if you do it properly, they're not. But it's a lot of people do them improperly, and that's why they become kind of a joke. But yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
but I think more so what I mean by doing Smith machine squats for me is that
Hmm.
it keeps the bar like I hypothetically can just use my right hand to lock and unlock the bar, and as long
Hmm.
as I'm staying in the same spot going down, which it's a Smith machine, you have to, as long as your angle's not fucked on the Smith machine, I should be able to do a no hand squat or even just a very lightly assisted right hand squat.
Yeah.
Um, but luckily, we got hack squat at Empire, so I can crush that without any worries. So my legs really won't be taking that big of a toll on this whole thing. I just can't do some of the movements I like to do.
Yeah.
And then, of course, chest day is obviously just going to be such a tough one now. Triceps and biceps I should be fine with because a lot of that cable work I can do with one hand. So I should be fine in terms of buys and tries. Back will be another kind of tough one. I know for me it'll just be the mental side of back because again, this unilateral work is shown to keep the neural pathways open on the other side, but mentally, I need to get myself to just train, like mentally train the right side. Because when we say put like your mind into the muscle, like the old Arnold method, like I've been
Hmm.
doing that for my back. Like if I'm hitting upper back, I'm in my upper back, both sides. So now I have to add an additional layer of just saying, all right, I'm staying in the right side because I know the left side is going to be activated, just not strenuously worked. So
Yeah.
it's a big process. I got really down on myself at first because I thought I wasn't gonna be able to lift, but then I got myself straight with my coach, and we're kind of in recovery mode now. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all you really can do. And I think that with his guidance, I think you'll be okay. And, it's honestly like kind of the way I look at it is like it's better now than later. Like, especially prepping for a show or like really like hypothetically being on a cycle or something like that. Like, it's better now while you're natty, you're just pushing weight right now, you're trying to gain some size. I think now was if there was going to be a time to have it happen, now is the perfect time. Not that obviously we want it to happen, but I think that it could have been much worse timing. So um I'm glad that it happened when it did. And now going forward, once that bone does heal, it will be stronger. So you would be, less prone to another break. But something I was mentioning too, in the case that you guys have it, kind of like the side lateral machine, if you had like a chest fly machine that has pads on the inside of your elbows, you can do something like that potentially. And then when it comes to like delts, something I was thinking about was like, so you can use the side lateral delt machine for your side laterals, but then what you can also do is lean into it, stand up and lean into it, and that'll be your rear delts. You push from the outside of your elbows. So
mm,
I know what machine you're talking about. So when you're sitting, you go like this, and the pad's kind of like out here, maybe a little bit on your elbow, depending on the seat placement. So if you stand up, lean forward, and push from the outside of your elbows, that'd be kind of like your rear delts. So you could work your rear delts a little bit. Front delts, you can do potentially a similar machine, maybe. You just got to pull up to front, whatever. So I mean, if there's a way to figure that out, then I don't know how your machine's built. The one at gym I go to, it's I could not fit sideways into it to do front delt. It would not work. But some of them are further out, some of them are adjustable, so I have no idea. But another thing to consider too is for delts specifically. Maybe even triceps. If you had a wrist wrap that can connect to a cable machine, you could potentially attach that to your cast when you get a hard cast and use that for side lateral row or side lateral raises or just lateral raises in general. You can do front and lateral raises, and then also your tricep extensions too. Um, so it wraps around your wrist and it connects to the cable machine. So that's another thought. But if your coach says to not do that, not to risk or whatever it is, whatever he says not to do, then don't do it. But that's just an idea I had, at least when you were talking about it. There's ways
Yeah.
around it, but
And I mean, this whole next 2-3 weeks is just going to be experiment phase because
yeah.
on Wednesday I'll probably find out if I need surgery or not. So then, if I find out Wednesday that I do, that's probably a Friday type situation, and then
Hmm.
I'm not going to be allowed to be even in the gym for a couple of days after surgery. So that's, I
Yeah.
mean, I might be able to go do some cardio or something, but that's about it. Um, and so then the next week after that, and probably another week following that, will just be experimenting, trying to figure out what I can do. But yeah, it's a very daunting road ahead,
Yeah.
especially when I was just finally getting into a groove of things. But
Yeah, I know.
that's just kind of how life goes, man.
Yep, yep. And I think that now with this going on, I think you could potentially like change the program, instead of like trying to put on weight, maybe shift it so that you're right at maintenance or like just below maintenance so that you can do kind of like a very, very lean cut, just kind of shed a little bit of fat over the next couple months and then just kind of come back at it. I mean, it wouldn't be like night and day, but at least it'd be like, he might need to adjust your food either way because you're going to be burning less calories. So, less intake because less burning, but I have no idea if that's his plan. Or not, but I mean, everybody goes through something like this. Everybody goes through injuries and all that and setbacks, so you're not alone. Um, and I'm glad that at least your coach has the expertise to know what to do and at least keep your neural pathways open so that you're still moving, you're still keep staying active, and the muscle groups are still kind of activating in a way. So good guidance at least, which is good.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to be, you know, especially when it comes to my leg stuff that I can actually do. Like, we'll probably end up switching to higher volume with less weight just because even though I'm training legs, your whole
Yeah.
body gets stressed, especially when you do high weight. Like, oxygen just in general doesn't flow to other areas of the body when you're doing very, very high stress for other muscle groups. Like, if I'm doing 9 plates for a leg press, not that I leg press anymore, but if I was doing like 9 plates for a leg press, even though that's a leg movement, the oxygen
Hmm.
in the rest of my body is not being distributed properly. So that's probably something I want to be avoiding anyways, just because I need that blood flow and oxygen into my hand for the recovery process. So
Yeah.
I'll probably talk to
Not
him
to get
about
too
switching
crazy.
everything to a high volume lightweight, especially since I'm in more so muscle retention right now instead of muscle building. Because if I stick with muscle building,
Yeah.
I'm going to become not disoriented, almost disfigured because think about it, a month and a half, almost 2 months of right hand over or right side overload, I would look like, I would be a wobbling tower at that point.
Yeah. A
So
little
I
off.
think it's definitely going to have to switch for what we're actually what the goal of our training is.
Right. I mean, at least for now. I mean, it's not like 6 months, we're not talking about like literally setting everything back. Like 6 to 8 weeks, even at that, is, not the longest period of time. I mean, it sucks, but it's not going to ruin anything. And what he could do, like I said, kind of just keep you up maintenance calories from what he can understand. Because you guys have been working together for too long. Um, so he can kind of guess what your maintenance calories could be and then kind of go from there. And then maybe even like increase cardio potentially to keep you active, keep your blood flowing, keep your heart strong during the recovery process. Um, and then, hopefully maybe even incorporate a little bit of calorie burning from that cardio. Obviously, I mean, I've always said this before. You shouldn't really be looking at cardio as like where you're going to burn your calories. That's your heart health, your overall cardiovascular health. That's what cardio is called. It's cardiovascular training. So it's for your overall cardiovascular system. But training, that's where you burn the calories. So I think that maybe if you like increase your cardio, maybe train like legs and then everything else separately, like one-sided stuff, like twice a week or something. You train legs twice a week, so like 4 days a week or something, and then like you do cardio maybe 4 or 5 times a week for like 45 minutes or something. I think that that'll keep you pretty active and you can kind of enjoy that process a little bit, at least for the next like 4 to 6 weeks after potential surgery and everything. Hopefully you don't need surgery. But I mean, if the doctor says you need surgery, then you need surgery. I mean, it is what it is. But Wednesday will kind of, let us know what the future entails.
Yeah, and the only thing that makes me worried is that I didn't even see the second breakage originally. I
Yeah.
saw the main sliver right under the knuckle of the left pinky, and I was like, "Oh, cool! It's one break. We'll realign. It'll reattach itself." And then
Mhm.
I sent it to a person. Well, the person that was the science teacher I worked with, and she was like, "Hey, there's a second break, right?" And I was like, "Uh oh." So since there's two breaks and it's not a clean break because one goes, you know, at like a 45-degree angle through the bone, and the other one's dropping like straight down at like a
Yeah.
almost like an 80-degree angle.
And it doesn't
Um,
go through the other side.
exactly. So
Yeah.
because of that, I'm thinking they might need to pin it up and like force the bone to remold to itself.
So the one that breaks on the right side, does that connect to the left side at all? I can't really tell. It doesn't look like it even connects to the left side. So
That's
like
her.
there's the left break that
The
stops in the
break.
middle.
You're talking about on the left pinky, right?
Yes, yeah. So like looking at the photo,
Yep.
there's the left side break that kind of comes out the top of that
Yeah, and that one goes
metatarsal.
clean through. And then
Okay, so the part that ends in the middle there, right? Kind of
that's
right in the smack dab middle. That's the part that's not a clean break, correct?
correct. That's
Okay.
literally like splitting my bone. That's
Right.
what that's doing, which is
Right.
horrifying to
So
think.
so just to be clear, the right side break, you see how it goes out the right side?
Yep.
That's connected to the left side, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, you
Okay.
can
All right.
there's just a little sliver that connects it, and then the other
Okay.
one cuts is like dividing my bone in half, which is
Yeah, so it's kind of like a Y, but
yeah.
one side is clean break, one side stops in the middle.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, cool. I just want to be sure that that left side, because it kind of, for the X-ray, it doesn't quite look like it connects. So I'm like, oh crap, did you not have a clean break at all? But I wanted to be sure of that, so that's why I figured I'd ask.
Yeah,
But
it's
that's tough. And the other problem too, is that when you are healed for probably quite a long time, you're going to have to adjust how you're training to kind of take into account potential pain. Which I wanted to mention real quick. It's nothing compared to this, but I have a broken hand as well. My left hand. It's the joint that connects my thumb, essentially the thumb part of my hand to my wrist. That's split. So my thumb isn't essentially connected to my hand, and that it's only partially connected. So we didn't realize it in the X-ray. I went to a hand specialist, and he's like, "Yeah, this is a break." Um, there's nothing really we could do about it because it was already too long after I had a motorcycle accident. So for me, it was just kind of managing, irritation. So I think that when you're going to have this surgery potentially, or just this recovery process, whichever one it is, or really both, you're going to also have to adjust your training to potentially for a little while not put much load on that part of
mhm.
your hand, which is fine. I've had to adjust that way, and it's really the only thing it came down to was like how I put my hand on bars and machines and stuff like that for chest. That was the only thing it affected, because if I put a lot of weight on the inside of my hand right here, um, it started to kill like the first like 6 months after my motorcycle accident. But then as time went on, pain went away and went away, went away. Now it's really not a problem. But for a while there, I had to adjust, and pretty much that's how I got good at suicide grip. That pretty much every time I train chest, very very seldom will I ever not use suicide grip, because
I
that's how I had to do it.
I use
So
suicide grip anyways, just because
I think it's
one I did it.
superior.
I think it's superior as well, but I also started doing it because of the memes.
Yeah, yeah, wanting to die. You
Yeah,
saw
like
your crush walk in with somebody else, and you're like, "Yep, suicide grip it is."
the pre workout is looking at the old texts, and then then you suicide grip, and you text your buddy that you're benching 4 or 5 as you've never done 225 before. But
Yeah, that was my like I was like because I didn't really know any better at the time. I was pretty new. I mean, I was working with a coach at the time, but I was relatively new to the fitness industry for the most part. Um, like you're way beyond where I was at the time, and the way I was working with my coach was mainly just like lifestyle kind of stuff, really. But the when I was doing suicide grip, I was just like, oh, this is superior. This is not hurting, but I also feel like I get better chest activation. I didn't really know it was called suicide grip. I just knew that that's how
yeah,
my coach did some things, and it's just the bar placement was on the outside of my hand versus the inside. So you're gonna have to do the opposite. Probably you're probably gonna have to do more regular grip for chest, at least for the next like 6 months or so. Because if you do suicide, all the weight is gonna be pushing on the outside of your hand where that break is. Um, so you might need to adjust. But for me, that's where I had to put the weight. So I'm just like, oh, this just works better. I get better chest activation, blah blah blah. But then like a couple years later, there's all these memes about suicide grip and wanting to die under their weight and shit like that. It's like I'm like, what? I'm like, this is a thing. I just thought this is just one way of gripping things, but it does make sense. I mean, I have dropped the weight on my chest once. It happened one time. It was a tricep press, and I had 185, and I was pressing it, and the bar slipped, and landed on my stomach. And it didn't really hurt anything. I didn't break any
did
ribs,
he
thank God.
did he sign the waiver? Did he sign the waiver?
Yeah, for real though. But it was at a powerlifting gym, so they were able to pull the weight off me, no problem. So it was pretty good situation. But I'm glad that I learned that lesson on a lighter weight at 185 versus like 205, or no, not 205, like 225 or higher, because I probably would have broken something.
Yep.
And like that shit's fucking scary. Even
Hmm.
at 185, if you've ever like, have you ever
You
dropped
could
weight on your chest from
you,
it?
you could break your ribs just having the bar drop on your rib cage.
Oh,
Like
well,
that's
absolutely.
45 coming down even from 2 feet up from, or
Just right.
whatever your range of
Yeah.
motion is, like that could absolutely crush at least your lower rib. And the scary thing about rib cage breaks is that depending on which rib is breaking, it's not just your rib. It is whatever is directly behind it. So you can puncture
Yeah.
a lung.
Yep.
You potentially skewer your own heart if you hit way up high. Like
Yeah.
there is some messed up side effects that can happen
Right.
with breaking a rib.
Right. It is scary. And what's like,
That's the sorry, just to interrupt one more time. That's why
yeah.
um, some of the most lethal UFC or MMA fighters are body shot specialists, because not only are there pressure points throughout your abdomen area and upper chest, but enough damage you can literally shut down a person's body. So that's why hard hooks, and like some boxers like focus on literally just taking those side shots in the side of the person's frame, because
Hmm.
enough build up there, you can shut down a lung. You can make it very difficult for the heart to pump out blood to the strained muscles. So that's why everyone looks for the headshot KO and in these mixed martial arts fighting sports. But honestly, body shot specialists are the people who I think are the most deadly, because they can shut down your whole body.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I don't really know too much about fighting, but I do know that um, attacking the body is usually the way to go.
Hmm.
You can knock someone out pretty easily with headshots or head kicks, but um, going for the body is really where most obviously like most boxers and most UFC fighters really win. Obviously,
Well,
and then
just think about,
also traps too, like airway
yeah,
traps. But that's UFC specifically. But boxing, yeah, definitely body.
think about how easy it is to lose your breath getting hit. Like you can
Oh
do that
yeah,
running into like a good accidental run into like a door frame or something can knock the wind out of you. And now
yeah,
imagine that repeated over and over again. And
yeah,
you're still having to guard your head, because that's also like
yeah.
it's crazy.
It is. It is. Boxers are wild. It's and you gotta the thing for me, just as a quick side tangent, the thing for me that's scary for boxers is your eyes. Like that's what's
Mm,
scariest to me. Like because there's cauliflower ear people talk about, but like they can still hear no problem. But like when you got your eyes and you're getting punched in the face, a lot of them start getting their what's it called, their retina detached and
yep.
everything. and like
Well,
you start losing your sight, and like that's what would be a problem for me. Like I
not
could,
just
yeah,
like not just that, but there's also lazy eye stuff. Like I before I took
yeah,
on my coach, part of like twice a week my cardio was sparring with my buddy, and
mhm,
we're we're both guys who live in rough parts of town. So when we spar, we're literally just boxing each other. It's not even sparring at that point.
mhm,
And what ended up happening one time is I took a mean right jab that just connected clean with my left eye, and I didn't fish eye, but I was like realizing that my depth perception was off because my sight was not aligned.
mhm.
So that's also part of it.
Yeah, I'd be hella terrified of that. Like I feel like I'd
Yeah, but
rather,
boxing is such a good workout.
yeah, absolutely. I feel like though I would rather have my hearing go before my sight goes. I think,
Hmm.
um,
The
that way,
Mozart
like,
effect.
yeah, I think I could live. I would rather live deaf than live blind because living blind, there's so much less you can do in life. And literally, like, okay, let me put it this way. My entire main passion, the entire reason we have this podcast is because of our eyesight. It is something that we are seeing from a bodybuilder. It is literally sight. It's how something looks, right? So if I ever lost my sight, I could never bodybuild again because I can't see myself in the mirror. I can't, like, there's no point. There's no point to any of it. So I would immediately lose my main passion. Where with going deaf, you could do really pretty much anything else. You know, you could do pretty much anything besides sight. You know, or besides hearing, which the hardest part would come down to hearing. You know, my family's voices and all that. But I think I'd rather lose my hearing. But that's a whole nother conversation.
I'm
Um,
trying to find a blind bodybuilder right now.
I would be very surprised. I mean, I've seen blind skateboarders and stuff, and um, I think there's blind motorcycle racers, but a lot of that's also feeling too. It's how
Yeah,
something feels. So like that makes sense. But like being a blind bodybuilder, I would still train, but I wouldn't bodybuild anymore because I can't see myself. I can't see the competition. I can't see anything. What's the point?
I just found a pro bodybuilder, Rick Welling. This is early 2000s. Rick Welling is an IFBB pro, uh, in it looks like overseas, but he is blind. That's hold on. Let me click on this video. Let me see what this
He's
says.
Indian. Yeah, completely blind. And he has actually a really, really good physique. Wow.
He's diced. Look, oh my god! Look at those shoulders. Look, literally just his delts. Look at those. Oh my.
I'm looking at a Facebook post, Indian bodybuilders of the world. Oh
Hold
no,
on.
he's not Indian. Never mind, he's British, I think.
I'll send you the video I just found. It's wild. He's walking out. Someone walks out with him. Um, it looks absurd.
Yeah, he's got good
Uh,
delts.
all right, I just
He's
emailed it to you.
completely. Is he really completely blind? He's got a stick, a walking stick, or whatever you want to call it.
I'm watching his full routine right now, but this is wild. He's okay. Granted, there's no one next to him to compare to, but he's
He
got
might be in his own
size.
class.
Yeah. Imagine you got a
Well, he might
class
be.
assigned just for you because you're blind and you just win regardless.
I mean, I wouldn't even care about winning. I'd just be happy to participate. I'd just be happy to compete.
Now I'm gonna go into the blind wheelchair division, and
Yeah, yeah.
you can tell too just how much time he spent with a posing coach because he's nailing these poses in his routine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's pretty. He's hitting it. Get into like
He kind
blind
of
legs
has a
only.
he kind of has a bit of a bloated lower midsection, but the upper part of his frame is incredible.
Yeah,
He's just not sucking the gut all that great.
I mean he's blind. I mean, that's his number one thing right there. Is his he's blind. But yeah, so I think this would be kind of a good segue a little bit into the Arnold here.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, but we're talking bodybuilder, so
yeah, so Arnold happened Friday and Saturday. So the classic physique division finished up Friday, men's physique and men's open finished up Saturday. So the Arnold for men's open is a 2-day event. So I think they do prejudging Friday and then they do finals Saturday. Um, so let me see if I can find. So I got the winners here, but I want to see if I can find
all of
the
the
rewards.
routines.
No, the rewards because they
Oh,
increased
I got the
the.
rewards.
Yeah, I was going to say they
Which
increased
one?
the dollar amount.
Uh,
So
Fitness Volt has them.
okay, let me pull it up here. I want to look at it at the same time. Okay, so men's open is 300,000. Okay, here we go. So this is an article. Okay. So the Samson okay, there we go. Classic Physique 160 grand. Classic Physique at the Olympia is 50 grand. And men's open I think is 250. Um let me look up.
300K for men's open at the Arnold.
Yeah, I'm saying for the Olympia. Okay, never
Oh,
mind.
okay.
So the Olympia is 400 grand for men's open, 60 grand for classic physique, and then men's physique, just like any other division, is not much money. It's 10 grand. Pro wheelchair didn't win anything, which is sad. Um,
Yeah, that. Well, I bet you they won. Just it's not a value that they want to throw on the site.
I think I just think that like
Like
they
maybe
should
some new
get some
spinners
sort
for
of.
the side.
That's fucked up. Baseball cards and the spokes. Little LEDs around the rims or something. No, it's fucked up. I think they should have won something. That's my opinion. But I mean, it's a business. So I mean, if they don't want to put money into it, I get it. But um, first place for men's open is 300 grand. Sixth place, which is a Key Williams, 12.5K. That is such a huge difference.
Yep.
But so yeah, so overall the results. So let's just start. We'll start at, I guess, the smallest in quotation and go to the biggest. So smallest men's physique, Aaron Banks. So I'm not surprised Aaron Banks won. I think that he deserved it
Do
personally,
you?
but
Is there a
hmm,
site that has their prejudging pictures?
yes, Fitness Volt has it.
The
So
for
the
individual.
same, yeah. Well, not the individual,
Yeah.
but
See,
the
I want the
prejudging,
individual.
yeah, so that would be their routine. That's the individual. The prejudging is the group.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so his overall routine, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's men's physique. You can't really do much anyways. I think it's not really Aaron for me. I guess in the routine, it's just the division in general. I think that they only give you the two poses, the front pose and the back pose. So it's like to make a routine out of it, it's really difficult. So his routine is literally just doing the same pose like 4 times in a row, but like walking across the stage and doing it, and then like kind of like transitioning into it in different ways. But then his back poses, I said the same thing at the Olympia or for the Olympia, is that I'm not a fan of his back pose. I don't know who came up with this, but for some reason the back poses like Aaron Banks and then others, their elbows are like straight out. It's like their arms are parallel to the ground. I don't get why it's a thing now. Um, it's and his
I
lat
think they're
insertion.
just. I think they're just trying to overemphasize the lats. That's.
It
I
just
think
looks
that's why.
goofy,
I agree, but I think like just physiologically wise, like that's how you would spread them more, I guess.
right? I get that, and I think he might need to have to do it because his lat insertions are very high. His lower lats start at like the middle of his back, so it's possible that that's the reason why he has to do it is because his lat insertions are very very high. But I mean, overall, I think conditioning wise, I think he deserved the win. His midsection was just fucking next level when it comes to the rest of the competitors. Um, I think that personally, I think Emmanuel should have gotten second over Diago, but that's just me. I'm more of a fan of Emmanuel's look versus Diago's. I think Diago's midsection wasn't. I think the rest of him was better, but I think his midsection is kind of what destroyed his look, at least personally. But I think that it could have gone either way. I can see why he got second versus Emmanuel, but I think Emmanuel should have gotten second. So
Now
that's
I don't know the physique guys' names off the top. Like, I mean, I have them in front, but I don't have them
yeah,
lined up. Is Aaron Banks the taller black guy in the middle?
yes, that's Aaron Banks.
Okay,
He's the tall one with the green
yeah,
shorts.
he's diced.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
keeps him really really conditioned.
what's standing out for me compared to the other guys for his particular frame is how high set his chest muscles are reaching. So like, who's the guy right to the left of him?
That if he's white or almost white, is that's Diago.
Yeah, so if you compare the two, the chest muscles between the two of them, like for Aaron Banks, it's all the way up to his collarbone, and their size, so he's like got good upper chest. And then if the guy, what was his name that you just said? Diego.
Diago, yeah, Arnold, yeah,
Diago. He's got like good lower chest definition, so you can see the curvage and everything. But as it gets higher to his collarbone, there just isn't anything, or not anything, but it's far less developed than with Aaron's. So
yeah,
that's what I'm seeing primarily out of him. And I mean, lower abs are so hard to get to poke out, and you can count all six very clearly for him, and they're
yeah,
all aligned as well.
yeah. His midsection is crazy. I think so. I know what you're saying with his pecs. He's got very very well developed pecs. So overall, his because the development is really there. It gives it a much fuller look. So for Diago, he's got obviously all of these guys have phenomenally developed pecs, but Aaron's in comparison is one, his posing is also a bit better. Diago's kind of straight on, where Aaron's to the side, so it's going to give the illusion that his pecs are bigger with the lighting. And then Diago's upper chest isn't as developed as Aaron's is. So, that's kind of where Diago fell a little bit short. But Aaron's or abdominal insertions are just insane. He's got like perfectly symmetrical abs. And they're just full every single time he comes to the show. So
I think
props.
another thing too, if you look at just the one picture that this site has where it's the five guys just, or sorry, six guys just standing
Yeah,
there, you can almost feel the stage presence of Aaron Banks compared to the other one. Like, don't get me wrong, the other guys are posing and they're there, but like it's almost like he's standing out in terms of just presence of just standing
yeah,
there. And
yeah,
they're doing the exact same pose. Like, granted, they all do it a little bit differently to get, their own variations, but I'm getting like very, unique vibes where it's him and then there's just everybody else. And I know that's how it is when you get put in the middle of a call out, but
yep,
it's like it's just such a dominant vibe.
yeah. And I think also kind of what plays into that is his height because he looks much bigger than the rest of the guys, even though like Diago looks wider because he's got more of a straight on pose. But because Aaron is so much taller, he looks much much bigger. So I think that kind of plays into it. And then also something that a lot of people don't talk about that I think people should take more into account is, first of all, posing trunks are going to play a huge role. Just the way they fit. Like look at how they fit Aaron, tight throughout his entire quad
You
and
can
glute section.
see
Right?
his glute, like the side of his
Yeah,
glute from this front
exactly.
pose.
But then look at the guy who got six, which I think is Edvin, all the way to the left. Look at
Yep.
how that fit.
Baggy.
Yeah, they look baggy.
Baggy.
Yeah, so
Those are
so
basketball shorts.
exactly. So that's going to play a huge role how they fit. Another thing that plays a role that I think that people should talk about because nobody talks about it. Wait, why is that? Wait, am I looking at 2022 or 2023?
I'm looking at 23.
Okay,
Oh wait,
I think they typed.
2022 men's.
I think they mistyped that. I think that's 20. We're looking at
That has to be.
2023.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
because
they
that's the exact backdrop that all the other ones have. So that's, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They just mistyped it.
that's
Okay.
a mistype.
I was like, am I looking at last year's? Okay. Got it. All right. So, um, okay. So Also,
And
another thing people don't.
we know it's 2023 because later on, if you scroll down, it says view the full results of the 2023 AC Men's
Yes.
Physique here.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
it's just
just a
a typo.
mistype.
All right. So okay. So when you're looking at men's physique, I think so with classic physique and men's open, what your posing trunks look like is significantly less important. But because there's so much cloth, so much actual clothing involved in men's physique, I think you should take into account what your posing trunks look like. You don't necessarily need perfectly symmetrical trunks, which I think a lot of people try to do. Aaron won first place with asymmetrical trunks, with design at least. The design's asymmetric, so you don't necessarily
Yeah.
need perfectly symmetrical trunks. Every other guy on the stage, besides who got fourth, so two to the left of Aaron in the photo,
Yeah, I can see one
has
side has stripes,
asymmetric.
the other side is
Yeah,
straight.
everybody else has symmetrical shorts. I think you should also take into account the colors involved in your posing trunks, because like look at Emmanuel's. It like, because of his darker skin tone, the black posing trunks kind of blend a bit more with his overall physique. But because there's high contrast between Aaron's skin tone and the shorts that he's wearing,
It
it
emphasizes.
exactly, it emphasizes his physique. So I think that kind of plays a role into how they look as well, because color theory is very, very important, uh, in general design, in general everything. So to kind of, you should take color theory into account kind of when you're picking your posing trunks, not like science based, but like be like, okay, I think that this, like that green color really complements his physique. I think if you went with like completely black shorts or something just very, very, very dark, it would kind of pull away from his physique a bit. But then, like, I think in contrast, if you're very, very white and you're very, very pale on stage, even though there's tanning, if you're very pale, I think you should go with most likely darker shorts to kind of contrast that a little bit. I think that'll kind of give you a better stage presence. But that's just personally my opinion on it. But I think that they do posing trunk changes. I think I'm pretty sure that the finals, like his actual um posing routine, he had different trunks on. I think they might have been honestly the like reverse color of what he's wearing in the on the
Yeah.
pre-judging stage, because they look very, very similar, but it looks the opposite color. So anyways, that's men's physique. I think that Aaron deserved it. I just personally think that I would have changed Emmanuel to second. But something to mention too, which is actually something we see pretty common with a lot of the divisions, is if you look at the scorecard. So the way that the IFBB scorecards work is the lower the score you have, the better your placing is going to be. So basically, how they do it is like, let's say I'm a judge, and we're going for top nine, right? Top nine is what we're looking at. That's one call out, top nine. So who I place in first on my scorecard gets 1 point. Whoever I place in ninth gets 9 points, right? So
Yeah.
the higher the points, the worse your placing is. So when you're looking at the
Aaron
scorecard,
and five judges, right?
yeah, so that's what it looks like. I don't exactly know how many judges there are, but I would assume there's 5 judges based off the
His was a
scorecard for this.
his was a unanimous first place.
Exactly. And then Diago got a unanimous second place. And
Yep.
then Emmanuel got a unanimous third place. Then there's a unanimous fourth place. So I like to see that, because there's not much controversy there with the judges. It's a clear decision on who's going to win. Like in the past, I think it was last year's Arnold. There was one year, it might have been either last year's, no, I think it was 2021 Olympia. It was between Nick Walker and Hunter Labrada. Hunter won by 1 point. So one person placed Nick 1 point lower than the rest of
Yeah.
the judges. So Hunter ended up taking it. So like something like that is a bit controversial, because it could have gone either way. But with like these scorecards, it's clear cut exactly who won. Aaron got a unanimous first decision. So I get that. I just think personally, we also got to take into account these guys look different in person than they do in photos and
Of
on camera,
course.
stuff
Of
like that.
course.
So, who
Well, it's
knows? Maybe
just
Dion
like
will look better in person.
how your stage ready is not stage ready is maybe like at most for, and this is in total of days, not like consistent days, but at most like 1 month of the year, and that's at most, because you're not staying this form for the like year round.
Oh, you stay they're this lean for maybe 4 days at the
That's what
most.
I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just that's why like we review these, and it's great to look at these for like models and like, oh, I'm striving for this, but you got to also keep in mind what they look like outside. They're still, phenomenally built outside of this. We're not disputing that. It's just how diced and lean they are right now.
Yeah.
That's a very small percentage of the time.
Yeah, and with all these divisions, these guys are getting, if you come in any lower than I think 4 or 5% body fat, you actually can't regulate your body's hormones properly. So you literally can't survive less than 4 or 5% body fat. So even though we're like,
I
oh,
think
these guys look phenomenal, they came in this condition and whatever, you can't survive at this level. You have to have more fat.
I think your body goes into like permanent fight or flight at 3, and anything less than 3, your body actually shuts down.
Well, I know people have come in lower than 3. Supposedly Ronnie Coleman came in less than 3% for some of his shows. It's happened. It's happened plenty of times. I'm sure a lot of these guys are less than 3%, but you can't maintain it more than a couple days.
I'd
At
say
that point,
more
it becomes
than
a real problem.
I'd say more than half a day. Like just like anatomically, like your body is not designed to be that low.
Yeah, it's not. That's why right after a show, they drink water and eat like junk
Yeah.
food, kind of. Is to kind of,
Well, that's like the CBum method, where he doesn't train, doesn't worry about diet for what, like you said, a month, something like that.
yeah, it's something crazy like that.
Granted,
And he
he's
usually goes on trips
different,
too.
but
Yeah, he usually goes on an international trip for a while too. Like he goes to like Mexico or something for like a couple weeks right after the Olympia, and just like eats and eats and eats and just relaxes. Which I
as
mean
he
he
should.
deserves. Yeah, and then he also does a PCT after the Olympia as well to completely come off shit. So um, there's that. So anyways, I think moving on is, we're at a good time to move on here. So going on to the real one that everybody talks about, especially
My
our generation,
guy,
is classic physique. Classic physique.
my guy.
Um, so the way, so I look when I, you
Before
were
we do the
obviously,
breakdown,
yeah. So you and
breakdown,
I chatted briefly before. So when I saw the results on Friday night, I was like, no fucking way, Ramon beat Urs again. I was like, this is such bullshit. So I see Urz's routine, and I'm like, wow, this dude looks fucking crazy. I mean, his front double is kind of like, to me, it's kind of weird. Like Urz's front double is kind of weird. It's like he pushes out his glute really far. So
actually, I think Urza's front double came in a lot better than it did at the Olympia.
yeah. So I was like, I think Urz should have taken it. I love Urz's look. He totally should have taken that shit. But then I saw Ramon's look, and I was like, okay, yeah, Ramon won. I was like, Ramon won. It's just for me. It came down to midsection and arms. Ramon's arms are much larger than Urz's, and then his midsection was just much more peeled than Urz. Or Ramon's midsection was much more peeled than Urz. His abdominal insertions were just way more obvious. So I think that Ramon definitely should have taken first. Um, so that's where I stand on that. But I do appreciate that Urs got best poser out of all the classic physique guys, because I do think that Urz's posing is way ahead of Ramon's. I just think the Ramon had the overall better package
Yeah,
than Urs did. So
I think
there's
the thing for me that, I mean, obviously I'm a Ramon, like I'm biased in this entire conversation because of,
yeah.
I fanboy over Ramon, but when I see when they do the actual Arnold pose, the one I'm talking about, where it's that
Mhm.
side lean, like
Yeah.
I'm looking at the spread right now,
I'm looking at it too. Yep.
and the tricep to bicep size contour on Ramon compared to the only person I'm looking on stage that even competes size wise is the guy all the way to the left. And I'm thinking
Mm,
that guy only has the size because of how he's angled right now. Like Urs has tone for sure, but just the sheer size is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
and Ramon has that locked down. But also, if you just look at how he's posing compared to everybody else, he has that pose down. And that, I mean, if you're at the
Urs?
Arnold Classic, no, well, I mean, Urs has it, but I'm talking Ramon specifically. He has it down. And if you're at the Arnold Classic, you should want to have that pose, locked in. Look at the guy to the left of Urs. He's almost doing like a running stance.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it's
that's
not a very good
if
pose.
you're competing at the Arnold Classic, you need to kill this pose. And I think I mean, Urs is there too. Don't get me wrong; he's right there behind, and honestly, I think Urs has much better leg pop out in this particular pose than Ramon. But I just think Ramon crushes this particular one in comparison to the other guy. Like it's almost laughable looking. Like not laughable. Like all of these guys deserve to be on stage. I'm not disputing that. I'm saying it's laughable at how silly they are doing this pose compared to Urs and Dino, who are just locking it down in the middle.
So here's my thing with this pose. So technically speaking, Ramona is more on point with it in comparison to like Arnold when Arnold did it.
Yeah,
But I prefer Urz's version of it over Ramon's personally because you see more of his back. You see his
I was gonna
shoulders
say,
look wider. His
yeah,
waist is just about the same width, maybe a little bit wider, but that I think is just a difference in physiques. And I think that his legs look better in the pose as well.
that's my big thing. You can really see the
Yeah.
hamstring pop out.
Yeah. So I think, Ramon's more true to the actual pose, but I think I like Urz's more. Um, I do like the insertions of the lat of, I think it's Alex who's to the right. Um, yeah, Alex Cambernaro. I
To the
can't
right
pronounce.
of Dino.
Yes, to the right of Dino, that's third place. So I like his lat insertions. I think that he did the pose really, really well as well. I think he pretty much nailed it. Um,
He
I think
just
out of all
doesn't
of
have the
them,
size. That's
yeah, I
my
think
thing.
all of them, I think Alex was the truest to it. Just because his lats really bring the pose together. His lower lat connected to his outer lat and his teres major minor just
I was gonna
really
say you
create
can
like
you can
almost
actually
like a
draw a
fusion.
line, like
Yeah,
looking at that
literally.
picture.
Yeah, that's wild. So I
And
think that he nailed it the best, but I think he just doesn't have the size that Ramon has.
I mean, it, besides Urs and maybe the no, just Urs. Like everyone else is like so much lighter in compare like weight wise. Like
Yeah.
maybe not weight, but just size wise. Like that's mind blowing to me. I mean, granted, a lot of it is body manipulation, like the way like Urs definitely has a hamstring focus in this pop, like making sure that's standing out.
Yeah.
But because you can see how when Dino's doing it, his left foot is forward in that weighted part of the stance to make sure he's true to the stance. But with Urs, it's a little bit closer to his right foot just so he can get that pop. But even with that, the other guys on stage just don't have the size, and that's mind blowing to me.
And I think if I'm looking at this correctly, the second to the left in that Arnold pose photo, that's Mike Summerfield, and he did not come in that lean,
No, he did not. His
which is
back has no definition, and this is like this particular pose. Like regardless of how you do it, you're going to get like Urs is really showing his upper back, and then even we talked about the what's third place. Where's his name? Um, third place with Alex, how his lats are, really defined. You can draw a line, but with
yeah.
Mike, it's like he's just there. Like
I just
the
think
only really definition is his rear delts and maybe the back of his arms, but like his back is just washed.
yeah, I think it just might be the pose to be honest. Um, Let me see if I can look up
Do they have a
his.
back pose on this?
All right. I let me see if I can find.
Also, I'm looking at the card as well, and Ramon just cleaned up. It was unanimous,
Yes, yeah, I was going to say that with this too. They did top seven. Ramon got dead first. Urs got dead second.
as did
Um,
Alex for third and Mike for
it,
second. It's everything else where kind of
fifth,
blends.
everything up to fifth is pretty on like unanimous. Fifth,
Well, even
sixth, and
fifth,
seventh, because fifth is 26 points. So
yeah.
I think someone voted Jason 5th and Courage 7th, I think is what happened. But it was a clear 6th. Everybody agreed Junior was 6th. And then Courage, most of them agreed except for one that he was 5th, and then Jason was 7th. So I think that's what that comes down to. But I can't find any photos of Mike at the 2023 Arnold.
I bet his socials will have it.
Perhaps. Let me see if I can find it. I have to look it up on my computer. Is this it?
Right, I got his routine right here.
So I see. Oh, no, that's Europa Pro.
Here, I'll send it to you. I got his. I just sent it to you on Instagram.
Let me log in here.
Okay, he's got pretty decent front. His front is pretty decent.
I'm trying to log in here. One sec.
See, because of the tanning on him, you can tell that he's like so much whiter than he is in that particular picture. Or like because of the tanning and everything, like he would be a lot a lot whiter.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm watching it right now. I like Mike Summerfield's overall look. I think he looks great. He's got the classic look. He just needs a bit more size.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came in decent. I think. I mean, he came in all right. A little washed out in some places, but I think overall he looked really, really good. So I think just that pose itself wasn't
Not doing him justice.
Yeah. His legs were really peeled in that video that you sent. I just think his upper body is kind of where he holds a lot of water. So if he had any water in his system, it's in his upper body. But yeah, so that's the classic. I think I don't know. I just my biggest problem and always has been is just I just don't like Ramon's vacuum. I just don't think that he really nails it that well. But that's just my own preference. I think I way prefer Urz's posing, and that's why I'm partial to Urz. Because to me, posing is everything. Well, not everything. It's a very big portion of it. But the problem that I have with Urz is literally just his arm size and his midsection just looked washed out. If he got those in point on point, like especially his midsection, you can get away with smaller arms. But if he had his midsection on point, then I would have given it to him. But then seeing Ramon's midsection was just like absolutely fucking dialed in. It was crazy. So,
well, I'm really
Ramon.
interested in the fact that that Terrence Ruffin didn't come back. I'm reading into that right now, and it's like almost like a very responsible thing of him to be doing, because you know how much you would want to go and repeat the Arnold Classic, but it's for him to take the step aside and say, I have to do this better to come back at the O next year even better. Like that's such a not many people I think would have that maturity when you're on this the 2-time streak that he was on for the Arnold. Like I don't know. I kind of give him a lot of respect for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty common thing, honestly, within bodybuilding is to take a year off. Regan Grimes did that. He took off last year's Olympia to come in better for 2023 for the Olympia. I think he might need to earn it now. I think he might need to do shows to get to the Olympia, but he
won't have any problem.
Size. No, he won't. He really won't. But it's a pretty common thing for the most part to take 1 year off to come in better. I think he came in really, really good for last year's Arnold, and then he kind of just fell short for the Olympia, and it was kind of a reality check. He's like, fuck, the competition's really stepping up now, especially with C-Bum. Yep. So in order for him to really compete with C-Bum now, he needs to take it to the next level, which I think was smart to take off time from the Arnold, especially after the Olympia.
So here's one where I want to pick your brain a little bit, considering your knowledge of the sport as a whole. So the winner of the O, I know, generally doesn't compete in the Arnold. I mean, that I say that generally because in the in the men's physique,
Yeah,
Aaron Banks won. I mean, he did back to back here. He took the Olympia and the Arnold.
yeah,
Well, sorry, last year.
yeah,
But my question is like, with your understanding of the sport, why wouldn't Sebum want to come in and just clean house? Because we know he does his offloading after the O, and he trains almost specifically for the O.
yeah.
But what if he? Because I have no doubt that he could take that month off because the O's in what, mid January. Actually, no, sorry, end of December.
Yeah.
So end of December, take a month off, come back, shred February and March, and just come in and I mean it's Sebum. We know how he stacks up with this particular group of guys. So my question for you is why, in your understanding, why wouldn't he want to add some more titles to his resume?
Um, I think for me, it just comes down to um, he doesn't need to anymore. Like he's at such a high level now that he could just focus on the best, biggest, and best show of every year. And because what's the Arnold's going to do is it's going to pull your physique a little bit away from the Olympia, um, and it's good for guys who have the plan already to compete at the Olympia. Sorry, not the Olympia, the Arnold. When they're doing the Olympia, they already plan on competing at the Arnold because they can rebound, put on maybe a tad bit of size, and then get cut again for the Arnold. Not too long after the Olympia, just a couple months. But when you're at such a high level with Sebum, like he's so far ahead because he was able to focus all year on one particular show. And
Yeah.
like it's look at it this way. So like would you rather go 70-30, 70% effort going into the Olympia and 30% going into the Arnold? Or would you rather go 100% in the Olympia and just not compete at the Arnold when you're at
That
such a
is
high
true.
level that you can literally be the best of the best every year? Like the Olympia is like you're number one in the entire world. Like Chris Bumstead was class physique champion the entire world by winning the Olympia. The Arnold is just a high level show, really. It's not to the level of the Olympia. I think eventually the Arnold will take over the Olympia.
I was gonna say we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I think it'll take over, but for now, the Olympia is the best of the best. It's like saying, like competing in the Boston Marathon versus competing in like the Olympics for a marathon. You know, if they
Yeah.
had a marathon or something, like that's what I would compare it to. Like even though the Boston Marathon is a huge, huge marathon, the people who compete in the Boston Marathon they train for the Boston Marathon. The people who compete at the Olympics, train just for the Olympics.
That's true.
And even then, 4 years is to them a lot of the time not enough time. They want more time to train for it, but they can't. So they can't really train for the Boston Marathon because they're getting ready for the Olympics. It's just the level of competition that you're at. I think that just taking the time to focus on the Olympia is why he does it, and he's able to right now. I think like just now or recently, he's just now starting like his bulk. Like he's really starting his off season right now to put on some
Yeah.
size, and then he has plenty of time to start cutting. Where, like this entire time, he's probably been PCTing and taking time off that his body needs from getting so peeled for the Olympia. Um, that like he couldn't have done that with the Arnold. So his body wouldn't have gotten the rest that it needs if he was
Yeah.
going to be Arnold. But with guys like Ramon and Urs, who were like, let's just be honest, they were absolutely fucking stomped on by Sebum.
Yeah.
They used the Arnold to build a bigger name, and then at the same time, they also use it for money too. Like 60 grand will pay for your off season easily.
Well, I
Like,
think both of them have their sponsorships covered too.
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I just think that they we like there's a lot of psychology that goes behind it, and I think a lot of the time it comes down to the coach's decision whether or not they're going to compete at the Olympia, and if it's going to pull too much away from the Arnold, and if it's going to pull too much away from the Olympia. I
Yeah.
think Sebum's at a place where he's like, I don't want to compete at the Arnold anymore. I just want to focus on the Olympia only, the biggest show of the year. But then like coaches of Ramon and Urs are like, you know what, let's do like Chris Aceto is Ramon's coach. Chris Aceto has had one of his biggest clients was with Ronnie Coleman. He knows what the fuck he's doing. So if he thinks that is beneficial for Ramon to hit the Arnold, then they're going to hit the Arnold. So I think it comes down to like ROI basically. I think that for Ramon and Urs, they're benefiting by competing in the Arnold, where Sebum wouldn't. It would pull away from his Olympia presence and his Olympia stage, essentially physique. He just doesn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to. So obviously everybody's a little bit different, and I think like at the same time, what division you're competing in also plays a role too. Like it's easier in a sense to compete in men's physique Olympia and then the Arnold versus like men's open in the Olympia and then the Arnold, because with men's open you're pushing a lot more weight. You have to lose a lot more weight. Like there's a lot more weight involved and a lot more and less food involved. Or with the men's physique, you can stay pretty lean year round. Like a lot of men's physique competitors are pretty lean year round because you don't need too much size. So you can have a pretty lean bulk throughout the year and then just start cutting like 12 weeks out from a show and be fine. And then, wait, go through maybe slight rebound and then do another 4 week or 6 week cut going into the Arnold. But they're already at a pretty lean stage as it is going into prep for the Arnold. So it's not as difficult to maintain a lean look in men's physique, but like when you're pushing higher weight like the Arnold and men's open, it is much more difficult to maintain that look. So there is that also to take into account too. I'm surprised that Brennan Hendrickson didn't compete in men's physique Arnold this year. That was kind of surprising to me. I thought I was going to see him up there, but we didn't end up seeing him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my opinion. Obviously, I'm not an expert. That's just from my understanding of it. Where it stands, like why they do the Olympia and the Arnold versus why they only do the Olympia. Some dudes just do the Arnold. I think they aren't quite at the level of the Olympia, but they can compete at the Arnold pretty well. And then you need to take time off. Terrence is taking time off now to focus on the Olympia, and I think that he needs it. If he did the Arnold, it would take away from his overall look for the Olympia. So he needs to focus on the Olympia. So it just depends on what you need, really.
Yeah, and that's totally understandable. Now, do
But yeah.
we go into men's open?
Yeah. So, what's messed up? I was not impressed by really anybody for men's open. I was looking at the results for men's open, and I don't know. I just wasn't wowed. I mean, I think Nick came in really lean. I think he had a phenomenal look. Let me look up the results right now, real quick.
Samson took first.
Yeah, I know he did. I just want to see the photos. Okay, there we go. So I don't like anyone's look up there at all. Like that's my thing. Is like there isn't a single guy up there I'd be like, yeah, I'd love to look like that. I think Nick. I mean, looking at Big Ramy next to Nick doing the side chest right there in that final pose is fucking absurd. Because you see how big Nick looks to everybody else, but you see how big Ramy looks next to Nick. It's fucking ludicrous.
Absurd.
But I don't know. I'm not a fan at all of Samson's look. That's just me personally. I respect the hell out of it. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I just think that a lot of these guys' waist is very, very wide. And it just pulls away from the aesthetics. Like this was just a size show, I think. I think it came down to size and
we've talked about how that's basically what men's open is pushing towards, who like the absolute beasts.
For the Olympia, it was for a while just whoever was the biggest. But last year with Derek taking second place, that really said a lot about where the division's going. um, which I'm really excited about for the Olympia this year to see where Derek places because, um, um, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? Who won first in the Olympia? I'm drawing a blank right now.
For
Why?
this year's Olympia,
Yeah, 2022. Um,
it was Honey.
yeah,
No,
uh,
Honey's the coach.
Hadi Chupin.
Hadi. There we go. Yeah,
Yeah, I knew it started with an H and it sounded like Hani, but it's not Hani Rambod. It's Hadi
but
Chupin.
he's
So
coached by Honey Rampart.
yeah, so I, I get why Hadi won, but Derek getting second, I think he should have won. I just think that Hadi deserved it after all of the effort he's put in. But Derek was a good sign of that. For the Arnold, I don't like any of this. It's just all about who is the biggest. None of it's who looks the best. Um, no, I didn't really like I said, I didn't really like the look of any of them. I mean, Andrew Jacked was fucking absurd up there, um, which is Chinidu, Andrew. So he got third. I think he looked crazy. Sean Clarita, I think, is hard for him to compete in men's open because of how small he is. But that's why he's called the monster killer, or whatever it's called, whatever his thing is, monster beat destroyer or whatever, because he is
Yeah.
so small. He's like 5'4" or whatever it is. But he has a really well defined package overall. I just think that the other guys just made him look tiny as shit, and I think that's the reason why Samson won. He just looks fucking enormous. But whoever got, let's see if that's second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, Akeem Williams, he looks fucking massive. He just doesn't have the conditioning. Um, but what was funny was there's a photo of Nick on stage, um, and it made his legs look so small. It was kind of funny. Um,
Well, I think what really blows my mind for Nick is that I've seen, like, you and I send each other, up like their bodybuild or sorry, updates on the different bodybuilders we follow on socials. And in the
yeah.
gym, Nick Walker looks like a freak of nature. Absolutely
Oh yeah.
does not make sense. And then you stack him up on this stage, and it's like, my God, he's the smallest guy there, except for that guy all the way on the right. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking height; I'm talking like size.
Yep. I think. I mean, that's just the thing is like these guys on stage are the biggest in the world. So next to
Yeah.
each other, they're very comparable. You put any of them in any gym, they're going to dwarf every single guy in there. I don't give a fuck who's in the
Oh
gym.
yeah. Oh yeah.
You put Nick in any gym, he's bigger than every other dude, no matter how big that dude is. So like just say that and then to be like Big Ramy dwarfs Nick is fucking insane. And that's why he got the name Big Ramy. Like that is just absurd to be like, yeah, Nick looks small next to Big Ramy, especially in the side chest photo. Like Ramy's legs look twice the fucking size Nick's does. I think it also partially comes down to posing. I think that Ramy's posing is just a little bit better, so it makes his legs look bigger. But like Ramy's legs in that side chest look fucking insane, dude.
Ramy's legs there look honestly the size of Nick Walker's torso.
They fucking look huge. And I think
They're
I don't know if it's like size or if it's because of the pose or combination. Like it blows my fucking mind seeing that. Like I can't even wrap my it was like seeing
so
C-Bum last year in the Olympia. It's like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like this
so
is
his
ludicrous.
his leg in that pose is basically the size of Nick Walker's frame. Now imagine if you put that leg against your average gym goer.
Oh yeah. My
It'd
front
be
double is
twice.
smaller than his
Yeah.
leg. Yeah, it's absurd. I want to see Big Ramy pose like that next to C-Bum. I want to see the size difference.
I'd like to see Big Ramy come in like this for the O. I feel like he would have done better this year at
Uh,
the O if he comes in like this.
let me see if I can find like a front double or something. It's all just a side chest. Um, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he came in super super peeled. Um, looking at the front double right now between all of them, I think Big Ramy's midsection, I think he just the way he was posing, he stretched it out. It didn't look that good. I just really don't like Samson's look at all. It's his midsection that ruins it for me. That's just
Yeah.
me personally. I like how he did a vacuum, but it just, I don't
At
know.
least attempted vacuum. When you're that big, your vacuum just can't do
Yeah, it's hard.
what you are in
His,
like Ben's physique or classic
yeah,
physique.
right. I think looking at the front double, I see why he won. His waist is small, right where his posing trunks are. Nick's waist is pretty straight up to his lat insertions, but like Samson's got more of that V kind of going on. I think personally, out of all five physiques, out of the top five, I think I would have, if I had to pick one, I think I like Andrew Jack's the most. Andrew Jacked the most. Um, that's just me personally. I think that I like his physique the best, but
I think
it's not.
proportionally and V to like the waist wise, I agree with you on that. Just
Yeah,
and I think his height also plays into that, just because he's I don't know.
I just think he looks the most aesthetic. Like to me personally, the rest of them just look like freaks. But like, what the hell was that? That was my keys. Um, I just think that the rest of them just don't have a very good look. That's just my opinion. That's I mean that's we've said this with the Olympia too. Like these are all just our opinion, and we're not
Well,
experts.
the whole sport is opinionated. One
Yeah,
these guys won on this day. The next day
exactly.
it could be completely different.
Right, right. It's just Samson came in, and the judges felt that he was the best bodybuilder that day. He was just the best on stage that day. Um, but yeah, so I think that I see why everybody placed the way they did. I think if Rami came in a bit more peeled, he pulled a Rami again. Like he looked crazy 4 6 weeks out, whatever the hell it was. Like in one of his poses, I think it was a back pose. He looked fucking crazy, but then like on stage, he just kind of looks washed out, and that's just such a Rami move. Um,
I think he looks better than he did at the O though.
yeah, I'd have to look at the O again. Let me see if I can look at the O. Let me see here. Where are you? I'm gonna look it up here. Um, I think the lighting is better at the O. I think that also plays a role here. Like looking at the front double versus, yeah, I think the lighting looks better at the Olympia. Um, I would like looking at his conditioning. I think Rami came in better at the O than he did at the Arnold. Um, but I think it also the lighting plays a role. The tanning looks way harsher at the Arnold. Like it looks like it's a lot more flat, where the tanning at the Olympia just looks higher quality.
Yeah.
Um, so that plays a role too. But I think overall, I think he came in good at both. I just think that he could come in better. Um, but I've never really been the biggest fan of his physique. He just never comes in that peeled. Um, he just comes in huge, and that's why he's Big Rami. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let me see if I can find the results sheet.
It's all the way at the bottom of the page.
Okay, so Andrew Jack got best poser, and then Nick Walker. So Ed Corney best poser award goes to Andrew Jack. Franco Colombo most muscular award goes to Nick Walker. So he had the best Nick. He had the best most muscular. Let's see. Wellness fitness. Classic. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it.
Also,
Um,
what I find interesting is that the men's open didn't. They had the unanimous first, but after that, there's no other unanimouses.
Arnold Classic. Okay, here we go. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
You
See,
got the
so men's
scorecard.
open. Yeah, I got it here. So men's open is a much bigger um, event because they got the prejudging on Friday and then the finals on Saturday. That's why there's two. There's judging and there's finals because you can come in better or worse for each one. So it's I give props to men's open because that is so much harder to come in 2 days than it is to come in just one day.
Yeah.
So if they came in one day, then it looks like it would have been the same results from what I can tell, but they would have scored a little bit differently. Like William Bonac would have gotten a worse score. Nick Walker would have gotten a worse score. Um, Let me see, and then other guys would have gotten better. Sean Clarita would have been better scores. So if you have a higher or lower finals, that'll kind of tell you how they came in. So like Big Ramy came in better at the finals than he did at the judging. One, he scored one less point at finals, so he looked better than he did at prejudging. Um, but yeah, so it was unanimous for Samson, almost unanimous for Nick, and then almost unanimous for Andrew Jacked. So top three were almost unanimous. Let me see, fourth. Yeah, almost unanimous for fourth. Fifth, almost unanimous. So almost all of them were pretty much on point with unanimous. Um, yeah, so I mean, I get the placement for everybody. I just wasn't super impressed with anybody really in particular. There wasn't anybody that blew my mind when I saw them. So it's just, but that's just personally where I stand. I don't know. I just feel like
Well, so
men's physique, men's open has just kind of fallen off over the years. Personally, the quality is just not there anymore.
the way that I look at it, and like I've I grew up not watching the sport, and my entrance was just the you know flashbacks of the legends from before my time. But I'm thinking in Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, even going back to like Phil Heath or older guys, the dominant winners had like a specialty pose. You know what I mean? And like there was one thing that they just crushed better than anybody. Like when Ronnie did his front double or his back, sorry, I'm thinking the back double. Like
Yeah,
either of those two, you knew he was cleaning house. When Jay Cutler did the quad stomp, he was cleaning house. With
mm-hmm.
these guys, I don't see a signature. Like that's my thing. Like maybe I'm thinking of the legends, and that's why I'm not being as partial as I should be. But I don't see, and watching their routines, I don't see the signature move, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think like there's always one pose that kind of sets them apart. Phil Heath's like most muscular is fucking insane.
Or even
Um,
Phil Heath's tricep.
yeah, Phil Heath's triceps pretty crazy. Nobody can ever beat Hadi Chupin's triceps, or not Hadi Chupin. Fucking oh my gosh, not Hadi Chupin. I can picture him in my mind. Let me look up the Olympia, 2016 Olympia. I think he competed at the 2016 and other years. Um, I don't know. I gotta look it up. There's one guy. They've actually no, never mind. I'm drawing a blank on his fucking name, but there's one guy whose triceps are just fucking next level who competes at a high level. Um, yeah, Phil Heath's most muscular. Um, was pretty insane. Um, and then Ronnie Coleman's rear double was pretty crazy. Like you said, Jay Cutler's
Front
quad stomp.
double too. I mean, anything with his arms was just next
Yeah,
level.
Ronnie was just pretty crazy overall. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, Dexter Jackson, Dorian Yates. Dorian Yates was just a mass monster. There was nothing he couldn't beat. Um, yeah, so Phil Heath dominated for a while. He did is it seven? I think it's seven Olympias. Yeah, Phil Heath dominated for a while. He was really high quality. Jay Cutler, the problem with Jay Cutler's look, which is that he had a very wide look, kind of like not really like Nick, um, but he had tons of size, um, and that's the reason people weren't the biggest fan of his waist width. That's the reason why people didn't really give him the um, title a lot of time. It's just because of his obliques. But I think if you don't take into account his obliques, he's fucking crazy looking. Um, you got Sean Roden for a year, 2018. Rest in peace, Sean Roden. But yeah, so Phil Heath, Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, and Lee Haney. All those guys have crazy poses that kind of um, cover a good idea of what their physique looks like. And then you got Arnold, of course. Arnold had the craziest. Everybody loves Arnold's look overall.
Arnold's
Um,
chest, just absurd.
yeah, and I think so. His chest was next level even today, but it's also his posing too. Like his side chest was like still to today is just so much better than anybody else's. Nobody can ever nail as good of a side chest poses as Arnold can. Um, so I think that that's kind of where he really separates himself, and he creates that shelf with his chest. So he'll always go down as one of the best chest posers of all time.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't be able to compete in today's climate as far as like competitors go. His legs just wouldn't be able to
That's what I
compete.
was gonna say. His legs aren't there.
Yeah, but that's not his fault. It just wasn't the technology wasn't around at the time, and at the same time, like the knowledge of bodybuilding was nowhere near what it is today. I mean, even the past 10 years, 10 years ago, we knew half what we knew now.
Yeah.
So, like to take that into account, I mean, Arnold has a phenomenal look. He just wouldn't be able to compete today. It's just a completely different era. But people argue the golden era, the best era ever of competing is like early 2000s. And I would agree, I think. I don't think it'll ever get as good as the early 2000s, or it'll take a long time. Like that's like, we're talking like Ronnie Coleman. Uh, why am I fucking drawing? You ask me any other time,
Huh.
uh, the competitors in like let's say like '01 Olympia or something. And I could give them all to you. Yeah. So like Kevin Levrone, there we go. Sean Ray, Chris Cormier, like all these guys are just fucking crazy. Dexter Jackson, Nasser El Sambadi, he was crazy. There's so many different guys who just Marcus Rule, mass fucking monster. Like all these guys were just crazy back then. Like I love Kevin Levrone's look. I think Kevin Levrone doesn't get as much credit as he should. And then Jay Cutler back in the early 2000s. This is like right after Dorian Yates competed too. Like people would even argue that like the end of the 90s was even just as good too. Because Ronnie Coleman said his favorite physique ever was fucking, why am I drawing a blank? Let me look up like the 1998 or something. Flex Wheeler, that's what it was. Flex Wheeler was like who Ronnie think had the best look of all time.
Yeah.
Uh, so like the '98 Olympia, which is the year I was born, was like some of the best competitors ever. Lee Priest is still competing. I love Lee Priest's look. He's just fucking crazy looking. Um, Aaron Baker. I mean, you got crazy, crazy dudes competing in this. And Flex Wheeler for the '98 Olympia wasn't too far off. So first place for the '98 Olympia, Ronnie got 32 points. Flex was 35. And then Nasser Al Somebody got third, and he was 60 points. So Ronnie and Flex were pretty close when it came to placing. But yeah, I love Kevin Levrone's look back in the day. It's just we don't have the same quality anymore, and even with today's technology, it's just not the same anymore. It was size, but also at the same time, it was also conditioning and aesthetics too that was taken into account. Where like it's really kind of gone in the direction of mass monsters, and I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Um, but that's just men's open for you. And what's also crazy too that not many people are talking about, they talked about it for like a day, um, is men's Masters Men's Olympia, which they're going to be having for 2023, which is a fucking problem. That is not going to be good. It's 40 years.
Elaborate.
So Masters in depending on the division you're talking about or the organization you're talking about for the IFBB, at least for the Olympia, Masters is going to be 40s and up. You got all the divisions that you normally would. Men's classic, men's physique, women's fitness, women's figure, bikini, physique, wellness. So mainly women's focused. But for men,
Wait. You're saying 40 plus as an age?
yes, 40
Okay.
plus as an age, you can compete for men. You can compete in classic physique or men's physique. 45 and up, you can compete in men's bodybuilding and 212. There's those two divisions as well. So if you're 45 and up, you can compete in all of the divisions for men. If you're below 45 but above 40, you can compete in classic or men's physique. This is a problem. And the reason I say that, I get why they're doing it is to bring in older bodybuilders to kind of bring some guys back, potentially bring back like some old Olympias
I bet you
holders.
Cutler does it.
And fuck no, absolutely not. There's no way he's competing. Um, I would love to see him compete. I just don't think he would. Potentially Phil Heath because he's kind of held on to it. Potentially Kai Green. Like those are the kind of guys that like they're trying to target. I think. Um, but like it's a problem because these guys are already like on the older side when it comes to competing. Like I think Ronnie was like 42, 43 when he stopped. Like when he won his last Olympia, I think he was like 42 or some shit. But like these guys are already on the older side. So to then push all of the drugs that they
Mm.
hypothetically were pushing before is going to be even more detrimental to their health than like being 32 and pushing the same drugs, you know? So like I think we're probably going to see some deaths when it comes to competing in the Masters Olympia, I think. Hopefully we don't. God forbid we don't, or we do. I really hope we don't see anybody, but I just think that is not going to be good. I think that with the Masters Olympia, these guys are going to be pushing way too hard, and they're just going to get hurt, and that's not going to be fun. So we'll see what that entails, but
I
it's our
think
first year with it.
if there's someone who has maintained their size while leaning off the drug usage, I think that's going to be a good opportunity for them to come back and maybe like 1 year, like relive the glory days or something, then go back to retirement or something like that. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
some guys might do it like that and then just, just for the hell of it. Maybe I think also the reasoning behind it is to build more advertising towards it because, for example, if like let's take Phil Heath for example, if you get if you were looking at the lineup and saw that Phil Heath was going to be there and you didn't get a chance to see him back when he was in his heyday competing, you're probably going to that's going to bring in additional revenue just because people want to see
right.
the
Well,
classics. So it's all money based.
yeah, that's why they're doing it. I get why they're doing it. But so this is barbend.com. They're saying that they think that Phil Heath, Jay Cutler, and Dexter Jackson could potentially compete in Masters Mr. Olympia because Dexter Jackson won the 2012 Masters when it was the last time they competed, or like when the last time they held it. The last time they held the Masters Olympia was 2012. So people think that Dexter might come back. I don't think he will. Um, I really I think if I could put money on anybody competing that has won the Olympia in the past or won the Masters, I would put money on Phil Heath because he's still fucking crazy looking. Um, After being done for quite a few years, like 2017 was the last time he won or competed in the Mr. Olympia, and he still looks crazy. So Dexter Jackson was born in '69, so that would make him 54. So he's 53 right now. He'd be 54 turning this year. Um, it's possible he competes in it, but he competed in 20 Mr. Olympias. I mean, he really fucking
Yeah, he put his body
beat
through
me
it.
for a while. Yeah, yeah, he went as long as he possibly could. So I'm not sure if he will, but I definitely could see Phil Heath competing. I don't know if Kai is even old enough. Let me see if he is. Let me see. 75. Yeah, he's 48. He's going to be turning 48 in July, so it's very possible Kai could be competing because Kai still looks insane.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that what these guys need to do is just send. So what they're saying is that they just need to send a letter of intent, and they'd probably compete in it. And I think it's going to take place in Romania. I think it's
Yeah,
saying.
there's no way there's a qualification process for guys that old. Like I don't think you
Mm,
show up to shows that old.
yeah. So it's going to be. So application deadline is yeah. So you got to application letters may include video not longer than 1 minute and photographs of your actual shape. So that's how you get in. Is you have to send in an application basically. The deadline is the 10th, and the selected athletes will be published the 24th. Um, when it's happening, let me see. So published on the 24th. Um, it'll feature 10 bodybuilding divisions. Okay, so it's going to take place August 26th and 27th in Romania, at the BT Arena. So who's going to compete in that? No idea, but I could see Phil Heath and potentially Kai Green. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah. And I mean, I think if they handle it in a healthy way, like if they say like personally tell themselves like, I'm not going to do the amount that I was doing back in my runs. Like if
Yeah.
they do like partial cycles or something like that, or even try and just bring it in natty, like just because they know 100% these guys know that it's not as prestigious of an award as competing in the regular open or something like that. And I think that if they understand that this is purely from an advertising and revenue based thing, they can probably handle it in a healthy way. It's the guys who probably haven't turned off the engine that are going to go in and just slam it and then risk, their health.
Yeah. It's going to be dangerous, I think, either way. They have masters in pretty much every other competition. I don't think the Arnold has it, but pretty much every other competition usually has a masters of some sort. So it's not like this has never been seen before. And they even had it up until 2012. But with drugs nowadays, I just really hope we don't see like a legend get hurt.
Yeah,
Uh,
that'd
that's
be
my
awful for them to go out that way.
yeah. I mean,
I
yeah,
get it if it's what you love, like you go out doing what you love, but at the same time, if you've gotten to the O and you've competed for a while and you finally managed to get yourself to step away and this is what brings you back and this is what takes you down, like I think that would be the heartbreaking part.
yeah. I think it would be kind of sad. I don't think it'd be fun to watch that happen. And like, I mean, Sean Roden's a good example of that. I mean, he just didn't like, we didn't need to lose him, and for what? I mean, it sucks. It sucks to see that happen. I don't think anybody should kill themselves over something like this. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I think that we're not going to see, we're not going to see a lot more of Nick Walker. I think that he's not going to be around for super long. I think,
Yeah.
especially when he went back to Matt Jansen, it's like, okay, he just fucking signed his death sentence basically. But I think that with men's masters, it's gonna be a wild card. But I mean, August will kind of tell, and we're only going to know the athletes 2 weeks out from it, so we can only
That's
ever
wild.
yeah, we can only ever speculate. Where with like the Arnold and the Olympia, usually with the Arnold, we know who's going to compete by the time the Olympia happens, or maybe just after if they haven't decided yet. But the Olympia, we know way ahead of time exactly who's going to be competing in it. Some people
Yeah,
have to
because the
earn,
qualification process.
yeah, some people have to earn the points, and sometimes we might not know until like maybe August or September or maybe October. But like most of the competitors will know way ahead of time. So, um, yeah, it's just an interesting world that we live in now. To think that there's gonna be fucking dudes 50 years old competing on the stage at the Olympia. Romania, at least in Romania. But I mean, I'm glad that it's not like on the same stage as the men's Olympia or the Mr. Olympia, like the actual O, because I don't want to see anybody try to compare themselves to each other. Like I don't want to see men's open try to compare themselves to men's master. But I don't know. We'll see. I think that the classic physique, I really am interested to see masters classic physique, how that would look. I'm really interested in that. I think it'd be
Vacuums from some 40, 50-year-old dudes.
yeah, it's because it's what's interesting is that like a lot of what's considered classic physique and like what the classic look is are younger guys right now. Like
Yeah.
C-bums, people say like C-bum is arguably the first like real classic look in comparison to everybody else. So it's like what who's over 40 and is going to bring a classic physique look. I'm really interested in that because classic physique has also only really been around since like 2012, 2013, and even then it didn't get big until like 2018, 2019. So like
Yeah.
classic physique was basically just guys who weren't big enough to compete in men's open and were too big to compete in men's physique. That's kind of what it was before, but then it became its like real own division and has gotten so much popularity now that it's like the biggest division at this point basically. But I'm really interested to see who can come in with a classic physique over 40 because there
Yeah.
was really no one competing. Okay, so whoever was competing maybe right at the start of class physique at the Olympia or the Arnold, all that time period, I think they could potentially compete now because if you're 30 in 2012, you can compete this year easily and you'll be 41 and they're
You'd
fully
clean house.
potentially, but like they were the start of classic physique, but they're not what's considered classic physique today.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see who's going to be competing in that division. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited for it, but I'm also fucking terrified for men's open specifically. I just really hope nobody gets hurt, but we'll see. Only time will tell.
I think that's kind of the agreement you sign when you get into bodybuilding, even if
Yeah.
you're not pushing it that late. Like even younger guys, like with what you do to your body, and even if you not even look at it from like an anabolic side, just purely what you do to yourself, diet wise to gain the size, and workout wise to be able to build the muscle and put on the tone and definition.
Mm-hmm.
Just that alone is not productive to longevity and health in the future, because like that's why men's physique, that's like the closest I think we have to the healthy side of things in terms of bodybuilding,
Yeah.
um outside of the wheelchair division, because that's just half your body, but but I inherently what is going on in the bodybuilding sport is not designed for a super long life. So I think it's kind of the card we sign when we decide to go down the paths that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree that men's physique is generally safer than like other divisions, just because this simply just the size. Um, we don't necessarily need to, like, men's physique competitors don't necessarily need to push as hard as men's open or classic physique or anything like that, because you don't need super weight to compete. I mean, a lot of these guys competing on the stage are under 200 pounds,
Yeah.
especially on the shoulder side. They're like I mean, fucking, if you're under like 5'8", I'd be surprised if you're over 180 on stage. But then again, it's like it's all about proportions and everything. So I mean, I'm hoping that men's physique doesn't go in the direction of size. A lot of the regional shows are kind of doing that. Some national shows are kind of going the direction of size, but they got to really keep the aesthetics when it comes to men's physique. But when it comes to drugs and what they're pushing, I mean, a lot of guys men's physique really are never going above a gram of anything per week, which is good. It's good to see that. Where like guys in men's open are pushing multiple grams of shit. I mean, Nick Walker is on multiple grams of shit.
Oh yeah.
So it's, you got to be careful with that. I think that if there's any that if you want to compete in and also stay pretty clean and pretty healthy, men's physique is the way to go. Because classic, you even have to push, especially if you don't have the genetics for it. Some guys are just built to have muscle size regardless of drugs, but like classic, a lot of guys have to push a lot of drugs to get to the point where they have the size, because you need the size. So like men's physique is a good starting point, but then it gets in men's classic, you have to push drugs and overall size to get to that level, by quite a bit actually. Because I mean, you can kind of compete in men's physique and classic, but if you really want to do good at classic, you need next level size in comparison to men's physique. So you got to push the drugs, and that's where it gets dangerous, is the off season drugs, because you're gonna be messing with your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where at least it stands there. Which actually, on that note, real quick, I'm on a new compound now. I like to add that. I like to be transparent about it.
Sure.
New compound now, which is Primobolan. So I like to be, I wanted to talk about this on the podcast because I want people to know kind of what it looks like. So test, we slowly moved up to 250 milligrams, which is not that much.
250 grams. My God.
I'd be dead. Legitimately probably overdose on that.
I am a bull.
Like that would be, to hit 250 grams, you'd have to inject legit like fucking 200. No, let me see, like if I were to do it right now with what I have right now, let me see if I can pull up my calculator. Fucking not used to Mac. Okay, so let's see. So let's say 200. I'd have to do 800 milliliters injected.
Hmm.
That would be like that's literally almost a liter of testosterone
Yeah.
Like we're pushing almost a liter. You wouldn't be able to inject that, but if you did, you probably overdose. But
You
yeah, so
drink
200
it.
milligrams. You would even die. Like you couldn't even. I mean, you inject it. That's how you absorb it. But like, I don't even know what would happen if you drink it. I've never looked it up. But 250 milligrams to test, and then also 300 milligrams of primobolan, 0.25 mg of cabergoline, and 12.5 milligrams. So so 0.5 milligrams of cabergoline or weekly, and then 12.5 milligrams aromasin every other day. So right now where I'm at, I have pretty much no side effects, which is great. I'm responding really well to everything. Putting on size, losing weight. Actually, I'm losing like quite a bit of weight each week. This week I lost a pound and a half. Last week I lost, I think, another pound and a half. So I'm losing weight right now, putting on size. Um, Essentially no side effects, and getting stronger and getting leaner. And that's what steroids is going to do. That's why we're pushing what my body responds to really, really well, which is DHT derivatives. So for me, I respond really well to Primo. So the last time I took Primo was end of 2021. And I went from like 197, I think it was, to like 191. And gained I gained a bit of size and got leaner. So I lost 6 pounds with a span of like, I think it was like 12 weeks, I think. So it was about half a pound a week I was averaging and losing, but at the same time I was gaining size. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm losing a lot of weight, but I'm gaining a lot of size. And everything's kind of filling out right now too, which is cool. Like everything looks more full. I look more full when I'm training and in my posing and stuff like that versus when I was like on keto and I look flat as fuck all the time. I didn't realize how flat I looked until like recently when I started like really pushing the food and all of that. Like I'm not even really pushing that much anabolics even. It's less than half a gram. We're not even at half a gram. So I'm really not pushing that much. And I'm looking way fuller than I'm used to, which is great. Um, so it's interesting. It's interesting to be going through this cycle right now. I love it. I mean, I feel so good all the time, especially in the gym. I mean, I'm feeling strong. I get crazy pumps right now. Um, Increasing the weight every single week for my logbook. So that's at least what I'm going through right now. And also, like, my biggest side effect is gyno. It's the one thing that my body does is produces a lot of estrogen, but like we're perfectly right where it was. And I think looking back, it wasn't necessarily the estrogen that my body was producing a lot of. It was the prolactin, which is why I'm taking the cabergoline. And by lowering my prolactin, I'm getting like no gyno side effects. Like it's gone. They're all gone. So I think it was a prolactin that was kind of making that happen. Um, so that, and then also keep my estrogen under control. Like I have literally like no side effects. A little acne here and there. I mean, a little, a couple pimples here and there, which is going to happen, but like nothing real, no real side effects right now, which is awesome. So yeah, so that's where I'm at least. Um, I think I'm pushing like maybe 3,500 calories, something like that, maybe a little less. A lot of protein. I have 3 meals of chicken right now, a Greek yogurt meal, a steak meal, and then an egg meal. And then I also have rice, Ezekiel bread, um, grits, and sweet potato for my carbs. And then obviously vegetables throughout the day, greens, random greens here and there. So that's where I'm at least in my program right now. And we'll see what the future entails. I mean, I'm really going to, coach is like, you're really going to start seeing changes for the next like 3 or 4 months. And then from there, I should be in a pretty lean place. And then I should be able to start prepping for a show at that point. So I'm looking at, so if we're going to run this probably for 12 weeks is my guess, probably an August show is my guess. Probably. So we'll see what show that's going to be, but probably August is going to be my NPC debut. And then hopefully I can place well and potentially look at something even better, but the time will tell, and I'll just listen to what my coach says. So that's
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Nice. I mean,
But
we did my little update at the beginning for what I'm looking at right now, so
yeah,
don't
well,
really have to build too
that.
much on that. But it's more so, I guess, since I'm not going to be as strenuously training, I'll
Yeah,
probably fluff up for the next 6 to 8 months, or 6 to 8 months, 6 to 8 weeks. And it's not going to be considerable by any means, but
yeah,
probably won't have as much tonnage as I do right now. which is totally fine by me because I'm still just trying to add size. So right now I'm not too worried about it, but just got to see what the workout regime is going to be, especially after Wednesday when I find out what the
Yeah.
call is going to be for the hand. And I won't go with a second opinion. I'll go with what the first people tell me because I can see the break. It's
Yeah.
splitting the bone. There's no reason for me not to listen to the first opinion. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. Did you see for the Arnold though? Uh, did you see the influencers that were there? Did you see what like Jesse James West showed up as?
No.
He
What?
showed up in a Terminator outfit.
Let me see.
It was pretty funny. And then some of the panels were pretty cool too. Like C-Bum did a panel with Hani. So that was pretty cool to see.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
did. I did see that.
Noel Diesel was there and he did a panel as well. It was really cool to see some of the speakers that they had.
Mhm.
I mean, granted, I expect it out of these big events anyways, but
Yeah.
it's really awesome to see the community come together like that.
Yeah, it's not, people forget that it's not just a show, it's also an expo usually. It's like
Mm-hmm.
an actual event.
But it's like it's in reality, it's a 4-day event, March 2nd through 5th. Like,
Yeah, yeah. The shows take place Friday, Saturday, and then it actually also keeps going. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Thursday through Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thursday
So
through Sunday.
I want to go to the Arnold potentially next year. That would be great. I also really want to go to the LA Fit Expo. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but that's obviously a trip. That's LA. So potentially next year. Arnold is within driving distance of me. Where was the Arnold this year? Isn't it
Columbus,
in Columbus? Yeah, I was gonna
Ohio.
say. Let me see how far. Um, Let me see if I can find out how far of a drive it is for me.
I mean, Ohio's
Um,
up there, man. You're
six and a half
you're
hours.
away.
6.5 hours. That's not too bad. I can do that in one day. That's not like that's easy.
Yeah.
I can leave at like 6 a.m., get there just afternoon, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock. Yeah, that's not too bad. You can fly there. It looks like just over an hour flight. Um, Going from Charlotte to Columbus would be just over an hour, give or take, and looking at like close to $500. But that's a fucking shit ton. I'd
Hmm.
change it out next year. Um, but yeah, so we'll see.
Do they hold it in the same spot every year?
Yeah, typically, definitely the same city. I know it's in Columbus each year, but there was one year, I think. So there's a hotel that has Arnold's statue at the front of it, and they denied him like a free room or something, even though
Huh.
like it was something ridiculous. So he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to hold the Arnold here anymore because they denied me a room or something." I forget what it was. There's some beef that happened a couple of years ago. I think it
Imagine
was,
denying Arnold a room. Couldn't be me.
yeah, with his statue literally fucking like 20 feet away.
Couldn't be me.
Um, yeah, no, they were probably fired. I don't know if anything really happened from it. I just remember him posting about it. So I'm not sure if it's in the same place it's always been. Let me look up um, Arnold Classic location history. Let me see if I can find out. Okay, that's a forbidden website. That's cool. Okay, let me see if I find out the locations. Yeah, I can't really find the locations. But it has been Columbus for I think like fucking ever. Since the beginning. But Olympia has hopped around quite a bit. It's even taken place in other countries. Um, I think. Let me look up the Olympia again. Um, yeah, see, like there's France, Germany, Australia, West Germany, Belgium, Sweden. The last time it was international was Finland in 1992. Dorian Yates won there. His first Olympia was the one in Finland, Helsinki. But then after that, it was Atlanta for a few years, then Chicago for a year, LA for a year, New York for a year, and then Las Vegas is really where it found its home.
I mean,
Um,
the States is where modern day consumerism is thriving. So you just have to value the commercial side of things.
yeah,
So
and on top of that, the United States is the biggest bodybuilding industry. Like, there's
yeah,
no other country that can even come close to comparing to the U.S. People would argue like Russia, like Eastern Russia or Western Russia. I mean, with like the IFBB elite. division, but it's not even close. Not even fucking close. Bodybuilding is truly in America. It is truly
Yep.
like really where it thrives, especially like California. Like that's where like the golden era came from. Um, People like Jay Cutler, Arnold. Arnold moved to Venice, California because of the bodybuilding. Like that's why he moved out here. So not here specifically, but like to the US. He moved out to LA for that. So it's like this is where it's really supposed to be. So it's definitely interesting. Oh, there we go. Classic Physique started in 2016 for the Olympia.
Nice.
So that's cool. Yeah. Danny Hester, Breon Ainsley, and then Chris Bumstead. Those are the three winners of the Classic Physique so far. And the 212 started in 2012. Men's Physique started in 2013. But yeah, so this is the world we live in. I mean, it's a great, great industry here. We're in the place to be, but I just fucking wish anabolics were legal. Fuck the FDA, dude. They try
Hey,
to
well,
say drinking orange juice is better than beef, but whatever.
and I mean, that's just where we are right now. It's subject
Yeah,
to change.
yeah, it'll change. But I think it was a good episode. We'll call it a day.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, guys, keep tuning in, and if we hit our usual viewer count, we will hit 1K views after this episode. So that is a big
Very
milestone.
exciting.
Next week, we'll sure talk about it. But until then, guys, we will see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.